Welcome. Today, we're plunging headfirst into a really tangled case file. Think decade-old disappearances, these bizarre pearl gifts showing up year after year.
A truly horrifying murder, yeah. And this legendary hidden treasure from India that just seems to, well, poison everyone involved.
Exactly. So our mission, if you will, is to piece together all these extraordinary, almost unbelievable facts. We're going to analyze the clues, follow the deductions, and really uncover the whole dramatic story behind the sign of the four.
And it's a deep dive not just into the plot, but into the method, the history behind it all, and frankly, the kind of moral void that lets something like this happen. It's fascinating, this cold, hard logic clashing with, the backdrop of the British Empire.
And where else would we start but 221B Baker Street? But it's not exactly a typical beginning. We're immediately faced with this core tension in the detective's life. The sources show Sherlock Holmes, syringe ready.
Right. Preparing to inject a 7% solution of cocaine. And this isn't recreational, not at all. He calls it an antidote to stagnation.
It really sets the stage, doesn't it? He flat out says he needs this stimulant 3 times a day, which is pretty intense because his mind just rebels at stagnation.
Yeah.
He needs that mental exaltation.
Yeah, he abhors the dull routine of existence. That's the key phrase. So this dangerous habit, it's almost a philosophical choice for him. He actually finds it transcendently stimulating and clarifying to the mind.
And Dr. Watson, who's, telling us the story, he protests. He sees the danger, calls it a pathological and morbid process.
But Holmes just dismisses the physical risk. For him, the only real disaster is an inactive mind. That's why he invented his job, right? The unofficial consulting detective.
Because the regular police weren't, rigorous enough for him?
Exactly, and everyday crime was too commonplace. He set himself up as the, quote, last and highest court of appeal and detection. It tells you everything. The only thing worth doing is constantly pushing his intellect to the absolute limit. So this opening scene is less about the drug itself and more about defining the extreme, maybe even terrifying nature of his genius.
Which brings us right to his methods.
Yeah.
Their relentless drive for pure intellectual challenge. That's what he calls the exact science of deduction.
Precisely. And he means exact. He sees his work as a science, something that has to be cold and unemotional. He even got quite cross with Watson earlier in A Study in Scarlet for trying to tinge it with romanticism.
Yeah, I remember that. He said adding human drama was like trying to shove a love story or an elopement into the 5th proposition of Euclid. It really shows you where his priorities lie, the human stuff, just messy data getting in the way of the pure logic.
It's all about reasoning backwards, as he calls it. From effects to causes, that's the pinnacle for him. And to support this exact science, he built this incredibly specialized, almost obsessive knowledge base. We see it in those monographs he wrote.
Oh yeah, the monographs. We should definitely unpack those. They really show his commitment to the tiniest details, like upon the distinction between the ashes of the various tobaccos.
It sounds absurdly specific, but think about it. He catalogs 140 different types of cigar, cigarette, and pipe tobacco ash with illustration.
140. So how does that actually help?
Well, imagine finding just a tiny bit of ash at a crime scene. To you or me, it's just ash. But Holmes, he can tell you if it's the black ash of a Trichinopoly popular in India, you see, versus the white fluff of bird's eye. Suddenly, that tiny clue can narrow down possibilities hugely. It's like a geographical fingerprint.
Wow. Okay, that makes sense. And he did others too, right? Not just tobacco.
Oh, yes. There's one upon the tracing of footsteps, where he talks about using plaster of Paris to get perfect impressions. And another really fascinating one, the influence of a trade upon the form of the hand.
So like calluses and stuff.
Exactly, but incredibly detailed. He had lithotypes, basically, prints showing the hands of slaters, weavers, diamond polishers. He believed you could read a person's entire profession just by looking at their hand shape, the specific wear and tear. He turned observation into a weapon, really. Every tiny detail becomes a hard fact.
And he gets the chance to show this off almost immediately, doesn't he? Watson challenges him.
He does. And Holmes, who never resists showing off his skills, gives 2 quick demonstrations. First, the post office trick. He sees some reddish dirt, like mold, on Watson's boot.
Just on the instep, right? How does he get telegram from that?
It's 2 things together. Observation. That specific reddish stuff is from the pavement work happening right outside the Wigmore Street post office. Context. Holmes knows Watson hasn't written a letter, and he sees stamps on the desk, so no need to buy any. Deduction. You go to the post office, you don't need stamps or letters. What else are you doing?
Sending a telegram? Okay, I follow. Simple when you break it down, but still impressive.
But then comes the big test. Watson hands over his late brother's watch. It's just been cleaned, so Watson thinks there's nothing left to find.
This feels more personal, more challenging.
Definitely. And Holmes goes at it first just looking, then using his powerful hand lens. And he just lays out this whole tragic life story.
Right, he starts with the initials HW and the age of the watch, guessing it was passed down from father to elder son, which is common.
Then the condition. Dents and scratches on the case means the owner was careless, kept it jumbled up with keys and coins, so untidy habits. That's the first personality trait deduced.
Okay, plausible. But then it gets kind of unsettling.
Yeah, the pawnbroker marks. Using the lens, he finds these tiny scratch numbers inside the case. 4 different sets, meaning the owner pawned it repeatedly. Often at low water, Holmes says, periods of poverty, then maybe sudden cash to get it back.
And the final blow.
The keyhole. Thousands of tiny scratches around it. A sober person winds a watch smoothly. These scratches. They show an unsteady hand winding the watch at night. The conclusion is brutal and inescapable. The brother was untidy, poor, took to drink, and died.
Watson's reaction is pretty understandable. He's stunned, accuses Holmes of cheating, basically, of prying into his family's affairs beforehand.
But Holmes insists it's just pure deduction from the physical evidence. The watch becomes this, miniature record of a man's failures, that keyhole detail. It's almost invasive, the level of insight.
It really is.
Yeah.
But just as they're processing this, theory gives way to reality. A client arrives.
Miss Mary Morstan. She's described as small, dainty, blonde, simply dressed in grayish beige, suggesting she's not wealthy, but with this look of refinement and sensitivity despite clearly being upset.
And her case is a proper mystery. Her father, Captain Morstan, vanished 10 years ago, December 1878.
Right, he was an officer in the 34th Bombay Infantry, just back from a post in guarding convicts on the Andaman Islands. He arrives in London, checks into the Langham Hotel, sends word he's arrived, and then just disappears. Poof.
All his stuff was left behind. Clothes, books, curiosities from the Andamans.
Everything. The only lead was a friend, Major Sholto, living out in Upper Norwood. But when contacted, Sholto denied knowing Morstan had even arrived in London, and that was it. Case closed, basically,
Until 6 years later, May 4th, 1882. An ad appears in the Times, asking for her address. And then she starts getting these gifts.
Yes, the pearls. Once a year, same date, this incredibly large, valuable, lustrous pearl arrives in a little box. No note, no sender, just the pearl.
For 6 years straight, 6 pearls. Which brings us to today, the day she comes to Holmes. She's received a letter.
A very strange letter. It tells her she's a wronged woman and promises justice. It sets up a meeting for that very night at the Lyceum Theater. But crucially, it says she can bring 2 friends, but absolutely no police.
Holmes looks at this letter, and also the addresses on the pearl boxes, right? What does he figure out?
Even though the handwriting is disguised, he's sure it's the same person. He spots these tiny, consistent quirks, a specific way of forming the letter E, a Greek E, and a little twirl of the final S. From just these, he guesses the writer is a man prone to vacillation, but also has significant self-esteem. Reading personality from handwriting.
Okay, so we have the missing father, the mysterious pearls, this cryptic letter. Where does Holmes go next?
He immediately hits the archives, specifically the back issues of the Times newspaper. And he finds the crucial link. Major Sholto, the father's only known friend in London, died on April 28, 1882.
April 28th. Wait, didn't the pearls start arriving just days after that, May 4th?
Exactly. The timing is everything. Captain Morstan vanishes, presumably after seeing Sholto. Sholto denies everything. Sholto dies 4 years later. Less than a week after his death, the pearls start appearing.
So Sholto must have known something, and whoever sent the pearls knows it too.
That's Holmes's deduction. Sholto likely died before he could reveal the truth or make amends, so the sender must be Sholto's heir, or someone connected to them, trying to provide some kind of secret annual compensation for whatever wrong was done to Miss Morstan. It points directly to the Sholto family.
So the 3 of them, Holmes, Watson, and Miss Morstan, who's described as calm but pale head out into this thick, dense London fog.
Yeah, the atmosphere is really building. It's drizzly, foggy South London.
Yeah.
Holmes even brings his revolver, sensing this could be dangerous.
And it's during this tense carriage ride that Miss Morstan reveals the last piece of the puzzle. This strange document she found in her father's desk.
And this clue shifts everything. It takes it from potentially just an inheritance dispute to something much bigger, much more complex. International intrigue, almost.
What was on the paper?
It was clearly of Indian origin. It looked like a plan of a large building, halls, corridors, that sort of thing. There was a small red cross marked on it and a faint pencil note. 3.37 from left.
Okay, I'm apt to something.
Possibly. But the most striking part was a symbol drawn on it. 4 crosses touching each other. And underneath, written in rough letters, the sign of the 4, Jonathan Small, Muhammad Singh, Abdullah Khan, Dost Akbar.
4 names. Foreign names. And this sign of the 4, it sounds like some kind of pact.
Exactly. Holmes gets incredibly energized by this. He realizes the case is much deeper and more subtle than he first thought. We're not just talking about suburban London anymore. This involves India, a conspiracy, 4 specific men, and likely a hidden treasure tied to that building plan.
Meanwhile, their mysterious coachman, Williams, who turns out to be a former boxing champion, hired by Sholto, is driving them like mad through the fog.
Right, he even made them promise neither Holmes nor Watson were police officers before they set off. They cross the Thames, heading into this really rundown, questionable and forbidding neighborhood, Upper Norwood. The speed, the fog, the secrecy, it all ramps up the tension.
Finally, they arrive at Pondicherry Lodge. It looks like a normal house, but there's a Hindu servant in yellow turban waiting. They're taken to see Thaddeus Sholto.
And Thaddeus is quite a character. Small, jumpy, constantly shifting between smiling and scowling. He seems incredibly neurotic, obsessed with his health. He immediately asks Watson, a doctor, to check his heart valve.
But his apartment is completely different, right? Like an oasis of art.
Totally. Rich tapestries, tiger skins, expensive paintings by Corot, a huge ornate hookah pipe. It screams sudden, possibly ill-gotten wealth, colonial wealth. And Thaddeus immediately confirms the bad news. Captain Morstan is dead. But he also promises Miss Morstan justice, saying he needs them as witnesses against his brother, Bartholomew.
Okay, so Thaddeus starts telling the story. His father, Major John Sholto, came back from India rich, but lived in constant fear.
Yeah, utter terror. He hired 2 prize fighters as guards, McMurdo and Williams, the coachman, and he had this very specific phobia.
The wooden legs.
Exactly, a deep aversion to men with wooden legs. Apparently, he once shot at a poor tradesman who just happened to have one. This isn't just random paranoia, it's a direct link to the man who's hunting him, Jonathan Small.
So the major knew someone was after him, and his fear was justified.
Absolutely. In early 1882, the major got a letter from India that just broke him. He got sick very quickly. On his deathbed, he called his twin sons, Thaddeus and Bartholomew, and confessed everything.
And the confession was pretty bad.
Horrific. He admitted that he'd kept the treasure, this massive fortune, half of which rightfully belonged to Captain Morstan's orphan daughter, Mary. It was pure, cursed greed and avarice, as Thaddeus puts it. Betrayal on a grand scale.
And he explained what happened to Captain Morstan. How he died.
Yes. Morstan came straight to Pondicherry Lodge back in 1878, demanding his share. They argued fiercely. Morstan had a weak heart, apparently, and in a paroxysm of anger, he just collapsed, hitting his head hard on the corner of the heavy iron treasure chest. Died instantly.
An accident, then. But Sholto panicked.
Totally panicked, worried he'd be accused of murder because of the argument and the head wound. His loyal Indian servant, Lal Chowdhury, convinced him to cover it up. They hid the body, buried it somewhere on the grounds.
So the secret died with Morstan. But the major knew where the treasure was.
He did, and on his deathbed, he was just about to tell his sons. He started saying, "The treasure is hidden,"
And he was interrupted.
Dramatically interrupted. Suddenly, this face appeared at the window. A bearded, hairy face with wild, cruel eyes. Utterly terrifying. The face vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving just one footprint behind in the flower bed outside.
And the shock killed the major.
Instantly, his last words were a scream. "Keep him out! For Christ's sake, keep him out!" And when the sons checked on him, his room had been searched, and pinned to his chest was a torn piece of paper.
Let me guess. The sign of the 4.
You got it. The past, the conspiracy, had finally caught up with him right at the moment of death.
So the sons knew about the treasure, but not where it was hidden.
Exactly. For 6 agonizing years, they searched, dug up the garden, sounded the walls, convinced it must be buried somewhere. Thaddeus said it was maddening, knowing the secret was on his very lips at the moment that he died.
But during this time, Thaddeus felt guilty enough to send the Turles.
Yeah, Thaddeus seems to have had more of a conscience than his brother. He persuaded Bartholomew, who was apparently just as greedy as their father, to send 1 pearl a year to Miss Morstan, acting as a sort of secret trustee.
Until Bartholomew finally figured it out. Not by digging, but by measuring.
Right. Bartholomew, who had a more scientific turn of mind, apparently, did some calculations. He measured the total height of the house 74 feet. But when he added up the heights of all the known rooms, it only came to 70 feet.
4 missing feet. A hidden space.
Precisely. A sealed-off garret right at the top of the house, completely forgotten. He broke through the ceiling.
And there it was, the iron treasure chest, resting on the rafters, containing jewels worth, what, $500,000 sterling?
An enormous fortune. But this discovery leads directly to the next part of the story, the reason Thaddeus contacted Holmes in the first place.
Because something happened to Bartholomew.
Thaddeus tells them he visited his brother just last night. Bartholomew locked his laboratory door from the inside, as he always did. Thaddeus left. But when he came back this evening, Bartholomew is still locked in his room, completely unresponsive.
So they rush back to Pondicherry Lodge. The atmosphere must have been incredibly tense.
Absolutely. The house is dark, silent. McMurdo, the prizefighter, lets them in, and then they hear this awful sound.
A whimpering.
Yeah, a shrill, broken whimpering. It's Mrs. Bernstone, the housekeeper, terrified. They hurry upstairs, Bartholomew's laboratory, the room where he did his chemical experiments. The door is locked, bolted from the inside.
Watson looks through the keyhole, right? What does he see?
Something truly nightmarish. In the moonlight filtering through the window, he sees a face seemingly suspended in midair, frozen in this horrible, fixed and unnatural grin. And it looks exactly like Thaddeus.
The twin brother. Oh, that's chilling.
Instantly, Watson realizes the man inside is Bartholomew, the victim. They have to break the door down.
What's the scene inside?
It's a laboratory filled with chemicals, scientific gear. There's a strong, pungent smell, creosote, from a broken container that's leaked onto the floor. And Bartholomew Sholto is sitting in his chair, dead, stiff, cold, his body twisted into this bizarre, unnatural posture.
And the treasure.
Gone. Thaddeus immediately cries out, "The treasure is gone!" That seems to be the motive.
But Holmes isn't focused on the missing treasure, is he? He's looking for clues.
Always. And he finds several crucial things immediately. First, lying beside the body, another torn piece of paper with the sign of the 4.
The calling card again. What else?
The murder weapon, or O weapon, is nearby. It's this strange, primitive-looking, stone-headed stick, like a small mace crudely tied together with twine.
And the actual cause of death?
Holmes finds it quickly. A long, dark, sharp thorn stuck in the skin just above Bartholomew's ear. It's clearly poisoned. The extreme muscle contraction way beyond normal rigor mortis and that hideous fixed grin, the rhistus sardonicus.
That points to a specific kind of poison.
Definitely. Holmes identifies it as a powerful vegetable alkaloid, something like strychnine. This isn't your average London poison. It suggests something exotic, something specialized, like blue pipe darts.
Which ties back to, well, possibly the Andamans.
Exactly. It reinforces that international element. But just as Holmes is piecing this together, Inspector Ethelney Jones arrives, the official police presence.
And Jones is not quite Holmes' caliber.
Let's just say he relies more on common sense than actual observation. He's described as stout, self-important, and he immediately jumps to the most obvious conclusion.
He arrests Thaddeus.
Yep. His theory. Thaddeus killed his brother over the treasure, locked the door from the inside, found that hole in the roof himself, and somehow climbed out that way to create an alibi. It completely ignores the physical evidence.
Which gives Holmes the chance to lay out the real sequence of events. How does he figure out how the killer actually got in and out?
He dismisses Jones's theory straight away. The door was bolted. The window is 60 feet up, impossible. But Holmes finds faint marks near the roof hole, and crucially, a rope left behind, which has blood stains on the end. He deduces someone was lowered down, and judging by the marks, they weren't a professional sailor used to ropes.
Okay, entry via the roof. But who? Jones thinks it was Thaddeus.
Holmes knows it was 2 people. First, the main culprit, Jonathan Small. He finds clear evidence, a heavy boot print, but also this distinctive, circular, muddy mark on the windowsill and the floor. The mark of a wooden leg, a wooden stump.
The man Major Sholto feared. And the second person.
The accomplice, the one who actually climbed down the rope and likely used the blowpipe. Holmes finds footprints near the roof opening and inside the room, but they're prints of a naked foot. And incredibly small, scarce half the size of those of an ordinary man, with toes that are unusually divided.
Tiny naked footprints. That's very specific. Where does Holmes go with that?
He connects the dots. Small size, incredible agility, climbing down a rope, moving silently, the primitive stone-headed weapon found nearby, the use of poison darts delivered by blowpipe. It points towards someone non-European, someone considered savage by Victorian standards.
So he checks his resources.
Exactly. He grabs his gazetteer, his encyclopedia of world facts. He looks up peoples known for these specific traits: small stature, fierce nature, use of stone clubs and poisoned arrow starts. And he finds a perfect match. the Andaman Islander. Average height under 4 feet, known for being fierce, intractable, having small hands and feet.
And Captain Morstan, Mary's father, was stationed on the Andaman Islands. It all connects.
Perfectly. But how to track them? They could be anywhere in London. Holmes finds the final crucial clue for the pursuit.
The creosote.
Yes,
Yeah.
that spilled chemical in the lab. The small, agile accomplice stepped right in it. That pungent, tar-like smell provides a scent trail that can be followed.
So, based on just footprints, a rope mark, a thorn, and a smell, Holmes gives Jones this incredibly detailed description of Jonathan Small.
It's extraordinary. He tells Jones, look for Jonathan Small. Poorly educated, small but active. Right leg missing, uses a wooden stump worn down on the inner side, wears a coarse, square-toed left boot with an iron band around the heel, middle-aged, sunburned, clearly an ex-convict. Oh, and he probably has skin missing from his palm from gripping that rope. Just pure distilled deduction from seemingly minor details.
Right, so the hunt begins. But first, Watson has to take Miss Morstan home. There's a bit of personal drama there, isn't there?
Yeah, Watson's really fallen for her. But now that she potentially stands to inherit this massive fortune, £500,000 sterling, he feels this golden barrier has come up between them. As a half-pay army surgeon, he feels he can't possibly propose to an heiress. It wouldn't be honorable, in his view.
A very Victorian dilemma. He puts his feelings aside for the chase.
He has to. Duty calls. He goes off to fetch the secret weapon for this particular hunt. Toby the dog.
Ah, Toby. Not exactly a pedigree hound, is he?
No, described as an ugly mongrel half-spaniel, half-lurcher, but he belongs to this eccentric naturalist, Sherman, and apparently has an amazing power of scent. Absolutely perfect for tracking that distinctive creosote smell.
So Holmes gets a handkerchief with the creosote scent from the crime scene.
Puts it under Toby's nose, and the dog just takes off, yelping, waddling through the London suburbs at surprising speed, following the invisible trail.
They hit a snag, though, don't they? A bit of comic relief.
They do. Toby leads them confidently into this timber yard and stops dead at a barrel that's leaking creosote. Holmes and Watson apparently just burst out laughing at the absurdity. Toby tracked the scent, not necessarily the person.
But Holmes quickly gets them back on the right path.
Yeah, he realizes the real trail must continue past the yard. And sure enough, Toby picks it up again and leads them straight down to the banks of the Thames to a place called Mordecai Smith's Wharf.
And they find out about the getaway boat.
Yes, they talk to Mrs. Smith. Her husband, Mordecai, and their son, Jim, run a steam launch hire business. She tells them her husband and son took the launch, the Aurora. She even describes it. Black with 2 red stripes, black funnel with a white band out around 3 a.m. the morning after the murder. Hired by a man with a wooden leg.
Bingo! They know how Small escaped. But where did they go?
Holmes figures Small wouldn't risk heading straight out to sea with the police alert already out. He'd need to lie low nearby. So Holmes puts on one of his disguises, probably just some rough sailor's clothes, and starts making inquiries downriver.
And he finds the Aurora.
He does, at a place called Jacobson's Yard. Just as he suspected, Small had docked the boat there, claiming it needed minor rudder repair, a perfect excuse to leave it for a day or so. Small paid Mordecai Smith well to keep quiet and bring the boat back to him later that night around 8 p.m.
For the final escape.
Exactly. Small planned to meet the Aurora and then make a dash downriver to rendezvous with a larger ship, the Esmeralda, which was bound for Brazil. He thought he was safe.
So Holmes now knows the boat, the location, and the time of the final escape attempt. How does he coordinate the capture?
Inspector Jones, by this point, is completely out of his depth and just does whatever Holmes tells him. Holmes calls in his network of street kids, the Baker Street Irregulars.
Led by Wiggins, right?
That's the one. He posts one of the boys down by Jacobson's Yard to watch the water and signal the moment the Aurora sets off.
The signal comes,
Yeah.
and the chase is finally
Yes. Jones, Holmes, and Watson jump into a fast police steam launch. It's a proper high-speed pursuit down the dark, busy Thames towards the estuary and the open sea.
Must have been incredibly exciting. Dodging ships, barges.
The description makes it sound thrilling. The police launch is straining its engine, smoke pouring out, slowly gaining on the Aurora. Holmes is urging them on, totally focused. They finally get close enough to see the figures on board.
Small and the Andaman Islander.
Yes. Jonathan Small, his wooden leg visible, standing defiantly, probably cursing them. And beside him, the little black man, Tonga, the Andaman Islander. The description is pretty stark. A misshapen head, a face filled with all bestiality and cruelty.
And Tonga tries to fight back.
He does. He sees the police launch closing in, raises his blowpipe, the source of those poison darts, but before he can fire,
Holmes and Watson shoot.
both fire their revolvers at the same instant. Tonga is hit. He spins around, throws his arms up, and just topples sideways into the dark, murky water, gone instantly into the dark ooze.
Leaving Small alone.
Alone and trapped. He tries to beach the Aurora on a mud bank near Plumstead Marshes, hoping to escape on foot, but his wooden leg sinks deep into the thick mud, holding him fast. He's stuck.
So they capture him.
They drag him out of the mud and onto the police launch like some evil fish, the text says. And most importantly, they recover the iron treasure chest from the Aurora, the object that caused all this death and misery.
Okay, so they have Small, handcuffed, sitting in the cabin right opposite the treasure chest he killed for. Does he talk?
Oh, he talks all right. He seems almost relieved to tell the story, in a way, though he's quick to blame Tonga for Bartholomew Sholto's death. Claims he was actually grieved by it and even welted the little devil with the slack end of the rope for it. He insists his real grudge was only ever against Major Sholto, the original thief.
So he tells him the whole backstory. The Agra treasure.
The whole incredible saga going back over 20 years. He confirms he was originally from Worcestershire, lost his leg to a crocodile in India while serving in the army. That injury led him to take a job supervising an indigo plantation near a place called Mutra, and that's where he was when history intervened.
The Indian Mutiny. 1857.
Exactly. A time of massive chaos, violence, the collapse of British authority in many areas. Small ended up taking refuge inside the huge Agra fort, which was packed with soldiers, civilians, and immense wealth being brought in for safekeeping.
A perfect storm for crime, basically.
Absolutely. Small was on guard duty one night at a quiet side gate when he was approached by two Sikh troopers from his old regiment, Muhammad Singh and Abdullah Khan. They had a plan.
Involving the treasure.
Yes. They'd found out about a rich merchant named Achmet who was working for a local Raja. Achmet was trying to secretly bring the Raja's personal jewels and enormous treasure into the fort for safety, planning to hand them over to whoever ended up controlling Agra.
So the Sikhs saw an opportunity.
A huge one. They brought Small and another accomplice, Dost Akbar, into the plan. The four of them ambushed Achmet near that lonely gate. Small tripped him, one of the Sikhs stabbed him, they killed him, and hid the body.
And the treasure itself, what was in the chest?
The details are just mind-boggling. 143 diamonds, apparently, including the legendary Great Mogul, supposedly the second largest diamond in the world at the time, plus nearly 100 emeralds, 170 rubies, loads of other stones, and almost 300 perfect pearls, some set in a gold coronet. A king's ransom.
So the four of them swore an oath. The sign of the four.
Exactly. They swore to share it equally once the mutiny chaos died down. They drew up 4 identical plans showing where they buried Achmet and the chest, and each signed it with that symbol, the 4 crosses touching. They're packed.
Hope they never got to enjoy it?
Nope. Before they could retrieve the treasure, their crime was discovered. Someone informed on them. All 4 were arrested for Achmet's murder and sentenced to penal servitude for life. Sent to the Andaman Islands penal colony. They knew where a fortune was, but they couldn't get to it.
Which is where Major Sholto and Captain Morstan come in?
Yeah.
Years later?
Right. While serving their time in the hellish conditions of the Andaman barracks, Small says he lived only for revenge against the eventual thief they hatched a plan. They somehow got word to Sholto and Morstan, who were officers stationed there.
And made a deal. Help us escape, and you get a share.
A 5th share, Small says. Sholto and Morstan agreed. Small claims Morstan was reluctant, called it a dirty business, but went along with it. Sholto was the main driver. He went back to Agra, using the plan Small gave him, found the treasure chest.
And betrayed them all. Took the whole lot for himself and never helped them escape.
Exactly. The ultimate double cross. Criminals betraying criminals. This is what fueled Small's 20 years of hatred and planning.
And Tonga. How did he fit in?
Small met Tonga in the Andamans. Tonga was one of the native islanders, apparently sick and outcast. Small nursed him back to health, gained his absolute fierce loyalty. Tonga was key to their escape, his knowledge of the islands, his boat skills, and of course, his deadly proficiency with the blowpipe and poisoned darts.
So Small finally tracked Sholto down in London, years later. He was the face at the window.
Yes. He arrived just as the Major was dying. Small says he was mad that he should slip out of my clutches. Later that night, he broke in, found the Major dead, and left the first sign of the 4 on his chest as proof the original conspirators had achieved their revenge.
And Bartholomew's murder. Small claims Tonga did it impulsively.
That's his story. He says when Bartholomew found the treasure in the attic, he used Tonga's climbing skills to get Tonga into the room through the roof hole. He claims Tonga lost his temper and killed Bartholomew instantly with a dart. Small just grabbed the chest and left the second sign. Whether that's the whole truth, who knows? But he definitely took the treasure.
Until the very end, the final act of defiance.
Absolutely chilling. Small tells Holmes and Jones quite calmly that as the police launch was catching up to the Aurora, he realized the game was up. He opened the iron chest.
And threw everything overboard, into the Thames.
Every last diamond, ruby, emerald, and pearl, scattered over miles of the riverbed. He says he did it because of the oath, the sign of the four. The treasure belonged to the four of them, or to none of them. He'd rather let it go to kith or kin of Sholto or of Morstan. If he couldn't have it, nobody would. Especially not the families of the men who betrayed him and his partners.
Wow. So after all that death, betrayal, searching, the treasure is just gone. Sunk in the mud.
Completely gone. Which leads to that final poignant scene back at Mrs. Forrester's house where Miss Morstan is staying.
Watson brings her the recovered iron chest, still thinking she's about to become incredibly wealthy.
Yeah, he's all excited, calling her an heiress, grabs a poker to pry open the heavy lid, and they look inside together in the boxes.
Absolutely and completely empty.
Just empty. Miss Morstan takes it with remarkable calm, just says the treasure is lost. But for Watson, it's this profound moment of realization.
The golden barrier is gone.
Exactly. The wealth that caused all the problems, the wealth that made him feel he couldn't possibly express his feelings. It's vanished. And in that moment, with the barrier removed,
He tells her he loves her.
he does, and she accepts him. Her reply is perfect. When Watson says, "Thank God that the treasure is gone, clearing the way for them," she whispers, "then I say thank God too." The very thing that corrupted everyone else ends up being the catalyst for their happiness. So when all the dust settles, it's interesting to see how the rewards are distributed, isn't it? It's not exactly fair.
Not at all. Inspector Athelney Jones, who basically got everything wrong and relied on clumsy common sense, ends up getting all the official credit for capturing Jonathan Small.
Though Holmes does point out, with a bit of dry amusement, that Jones did accidentally catch one other guilty party, Lal Rao, the butler, who must have been Major Sholto's accomplice in hiding Morstan's body all those years ago. So 1 point for Jones, maybe.
Meanwhile, Dr. Watson gets arguably the best prize of all.
Definitely. He gets a wife. As he puts it, Miss Morstan has done me the honor to accept me as a husband in perspective. A happy ending, built on the ashes of the treasure. Which just leaves Holmes, the man who actually solved the entire intricate puzzle, risked his life, used his unique genius. What's left for him? Watson asks him directly.
And Holmes's answer takes us right back to the beginning of the story. It's almost chillingly matter-of-fact. For me, there still remains the cocaine bottle.
Wow. After everything, that's his reward. Or his escape.
It's his reality. It perfectly sums up his philosophy. He sees love, marriage, all that emotional stuff Watson just found as fundamentally incompatible with that true cold reason which I place above all things. He genuinely believes emotion clouds judgment, that love would bias his work.
So he chooses the needle over connection, the mental exaltation over human warmth. It seems so. He even quotes Goethe, saying he has the potential to be both a very fine loafer and a pretty spry sort of fellow. He's chosen the path of intense intellectual effort, and that cocaine is just, well, the fuel or maybe the crutch that keeps him going on that path, fighting off the dull routine he dreads so much.
It leaves you thinking, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And that's perhaps the final provocative thought for you listening to this deep dive. Holmes stakes everything on pure, cold reason. But in this case, the ultimate truth wasn't finding the treasure, it was lost anyway. The real prize, you could argue, was the human connection that Watson found because the treasure was lost. So does Holmes's absolute dedication to logic maybe miss something fundamental about, well, being human? What's the true cost of that kind of isolated genius? Something to ponder.